And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey everybody, I'm Tom Vasel. Welcome to the Dice Tower. One of the things I dislike most in the world is being part of a big group picture. I'm sure you've been part of one of those before, where everyone's standing there, and especially when it has to be a good group picture, and the photographer's moving everyone around. And I was part of, a year ago, a family picture. We're out in the sun in Florida, and we're all dressed up and moving around and this and that. Now, fortunately, my family was like, let's just get the picture taken and done and over with. But some families are like, I don't want to stand next to this person. And it must be terribly unfun to be the photographer. But what if it's a game? And that's what Picture Perfect is about. In Picture Perfect, each person in this game is a photographer of a big group of people. And these people have demands. They want to stand here. They want to do this. You're trying to meet as many of those demands as possible. And then, in this game, you actually take a picture with your phone. Now, you don't have to, but it's hilariously fun to do so. And then you score points based on how many of these people's preferences that you meet. So let's take a look at the game in a little bit more detail, and then we'll come back. At the beginning of the game, each player is going to get your flooring, which doesn't matter, but you can pick. Do you want a wood floor or a stone floor? Has no effect on the game. You're also going to get a table with some nice decorations on it. Each player has 10 of those. And then your background, which is going to kind of form a shield here. You can pick from the different backgrounds. So you put it up like this. And then you have all 12 of the different people, well, one's a plant and one's a dog, that are going to be in this picture. At the beginning of the game, there's going to be an envelope for each of the different things. And you're going to be randomly, without looking, giving them 3 things that they want. So for example, I might put the boy in his thing. It might say, he wants to stand away from the table in one of those spots. He wants to stand next to her, or be her. Well, he's not her, but he wants to stand next to her. And he wants to stand in the middle, okay? And then the guy in the wheelchair, he might say, I don't want to stand next to a man. He wants to stand next to her, and he wants to stand next to her. Well, that's a little trickier. The next person wants to stand in the third row next to her and wants to make sure no one can see the face of this girl. So you have different things, and sometimes their stuff might not even work. Like, I want to stand away from the table and I want to stand at the table. They may have the same one. So you're going to put these in all the envelopes. Then you're going to deal out, depending on the players, a certain number of these to each player, with some in the middle. And when it's your turn at the beginning of the game, everyone's going to go at the same time. They're going to pull out the 3. They're going to look at them. And if you want to, you can start placing people at the table. You can only look at one envelope at a time, and you can do as much of this as you want. It doesn't matter. You can change them at any given point. Then there's going to be 6 cards that are shuffled, and these cards are going to be based on the number of players. You're going to reveal them one at a time. All players take an envelope from the player on their left. Or each player keeps an envelope and places the rest in the middle of the table. Shuffle them all in the middle. Or reveal the contents of 2 envelopes from the middle of the table to all the players. So these are going to happen. In the advanced game, you're going to replace 3 of those cards with some auction cards where you will auction off the items on your table. And then beginning with the starting player, you auction them off, and people can use these items and pay them to another player to look at envelopes and things like that. Once you've gone through all 6 of these, players are then going to decide how they want everyone to stand. Each spot here can hold a person. You are not required to put somebody in the picture. So I might say this boy's too hard. I always stick my extra people under the table because I think that's funny, but you don't have to. Yeah, this guy's out too. And then we'll put her there. Then you actually take your phone, if you have a camera, and you don't have to do this part, but it's fun to do, and you're going to try to maneuver it and take a picture of the different people at the thing. So let's take a look at my picture that I've taken. And we can say, oh, okay, I'm trying to hide maybe the face of someone. See, that person I have in such a way that I can't see their face, etc. You can even use the things on the table to hide people's faces if you want to. Once everyone is done and they've taken their picture, you're then going to reveal. You're going to close this, and it becomes your scoring board. And then everyone simultaneously is going to check each person's 3 things. If you meet none of their requirements, you lose 3 points. If you meet only one of them, you get a point. If you meet two of them, you get 3. If you get all 3, you get 6. If they're not in the picture at all, you get 0. And then you get, for each item, for every 2 items, you get a point. And whoever has the most points wins. Now, each person has a VIP card that once per game, you can slide into an envelope. And then this person's score is doubled. That's positive or negative. So I might, for example, put it in someone who I think is hard to do. I don't even put that person in my picture, and I'm hoping someone else does, and they'll lose 6 points instead of 3. Or I could put it in someone who I think I got all 3 of their things, so I get 12 points instead of 6. And that is how you play the game. I really love the components for this game. I love that there is different backgrounds for the different players. You know, you're like, oh, look at this. That's the perfect moment bar. And that these fold up into these scoring tokens at the end of the game. So that works really well. There's a 5 to 6 player expansion, which I'm not going to review separately. It literally just adds 2 extra players and some cards for them. The envelopes work well. I do have one small complaint here. There's enough cards that there's 3 cards per thing for each of the different people in the game. I do wish there was 10 more of these cards. So just various things that you don't see every card in every game. But that's not a huge deal. The artwork for the cards itself is fun. It tells you if they're male or female on them. You know, the plant doesn't have any. The plant also doesn't have a face. The rules are clear on that. And speaking of rules, the game rules are really short. They're easy to go through. And then there's a photography guide that's in here. You don't need it. It's just like a reference guide. You know, has how all the different cards work. If you're not sure what I want to stand next to a guest means, it explains it. It also talks a little bit about the scoring and the setup on the back. This is really well done. You don't need this. It's a really easy game to jump into. Overall, happy with the components. Now, this is one of these games that as soon as it was explained to me, I liked it. I liked it before I even played it. Then I played it, and I liked it. Then I played it with the auctions, and I liked it even more. This is just my jam. First of all, the theming is terrific. I love the idea. You are taking a picture of a group of people. There's no other theme that this game would work for. Also, beyond the theming of it, the idea, the concept that feels unique. Now, I want to be clear, this is not a super deep strategy game, especially if you don't play with auctions. If you don't play with auctions, you're just passing envelopes around, looking at cards, and just trying to organize things. Nobody's going to organize stuff in the same way, although you might see some similarities between pictures because people's demands kind of might put them in a specific spot. But and there's also a little bit of bluffing, like I'm going to make this person a VIP. You see that person's a VIP, and you're like, oh, well, then they must be important to get them in the picture, or whatever it might be. There's a little bit of that. When you add in the auctions, it adds just a little bit of strategy to the game. Not a lot, because those items are a point for every 2, which isn't a ton, although it can change who wins the game. But knowing how much to bid to win a little bit more information can be enough to put you over the top. And it's also fun to use like a plate to block somebody's face. I really have so much fun with this, folks. This is a game, this is one of the few games that I recommend you getting the 5 to 6 player expansion for, because it's simultaneous. Everyone's playing at the same time. The only part where that would slow it down a little bit is at the end when you score everybody's things. But again, everyone scores on their own. You say this person wants to do this, this, and this. And I'm like, I get 3 points. Everyone's just tracking their points. Wow, this feels fresh. This feels different than everything else that's been coming out this year. We have a lot of great games, but they all feel like they build on other things. This feels like something new. This is a game that I think a lot of people are going to play and get excited and tell their friends about. This is a game that you can play with people who are not big gamers. It's easy. It's a great welcoming game for people who don't play many games. But for me, as a die-hard gamer, I'm also having fun with this. It is terrific. And it's the kind of game that you'll talk about afterwards, and then you even have a picture on your phone. Now, I know there's a few people who may not want to take a picture with their phone, and again, you don't have to. In fact, when you score, you only look at the picture in your phone to see if someone's face is blocked, and you don't need that. You could just say, okay, from this angle, you can't see the person's face. But it adds just that little extra pizzazz to the game. Tons of fun. Highly recommend it from me. Picture perfect. I'm Tom Vasel. You've been watching the Dice Tower. Dice Tower judgment, excellent.